The topic of our presentation is summarizing and analyzing the privacy preserving techniques in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin and many other similar cryptocurrencies have been in existence for over a decade, prominently focusing on decentralized, pseudo-anonymous ledger-based transactions. Many protocol improvements and changes have resulted in new variants of cryptocurrencies that are known for their peculiar characteristics. For instance, Dogecoin is a proof of storage-based cryptocurrency that incentivizes its peers based on the amount of storage owned by them. While cryptocurrencies strive to maintain peer transparency by making their transactions and the entire ledger public, user privacy is compromised at times. Monero and many other privacy-centric cryptocurrencies have improved from the original Bitcoin protocol that grew from the deficiencies found in the protocol. Most of these deficiencies were related to the privacy of users. Even though Bitcoin claims to have pseudo-anonymous user identities, many attacks have managed to successfully de-anonymize users. The goal of this paper is to summarize, study, and analyze the different privacy-preserving aspects and algorithms proposed and implemented in Bitcoin and several cryptocurrencies. T. Okamoto and K. Ota in their paper on Universal Electronic Cash specified two important properties that a cryptocurrency model must adhere to: untraceability and unlinkability. Untraceability means that for every incoming transaction, all possible senders are equiprobable. Unlinkability implies that for any two outgoing transactions, it is impossible to prove that they were sent to the same person. Unfortunately, Bitcoin does not adhere completely to these two properties. Although there have been attempted attacks on these two properties in privacy respecting currencies like Monero, they are beyond the scope of this research.
Based on the two identified properties of untraceability and unlinkability, anonymity can be classified into four tiers. Based upon how effectively a cryptocurrency manages to satisfy them, there can be four classes. The first one is pseudonymity. This kind of anonymity is achieved through pseudo-anonymous addresses, which are typically used in Bitcoin. It is a disguised state intermediate between full anonymity and open information. The second is set anonymity. In this, the identity of a user is either one out of n possible peer identities. It is used in Monero cryptocurrency through the usage of ring signatures. The third one is full anonymity. This tier provides complete concealment of the sender node, the receiver node, and the details of the transaction. And the last one is confidential transactions, which is a tier that focuses on obfuscating the transaction amount to prevent analysis or any kind of inference attacks. Bitcoin falls in the pseudonymity tier. Many privacy attacks have been attempted on Bitcoin by finding loopholes or exploiting the evident facts or limitations of the protocol. These attacks are not only limited to Bitcoin, but they can be attempted on similar kind of blockchains. The privacy attacks attempt to violate either one or both properties, that is untraceability and or unlinkability of a privacy preserving transaction system.
So among the different types of privacy attacks attempted on Bitcoin blockchain, the most prominently known is the transaction traceability using transaction graphs. Many tools exist on the internet that create linkages between specified addresses and their corresponding transactions using the transaction graph and the publicly available ledger. If the pseudo-anonymous owner of any one of these addresses in the graph is known, the transactions can be traced back. The previous transaction history of these addresses constructed with the graph can help link these addresses to their owners. Several clustering techniques have been used as well to de-anonymize the peers. However, this attack becomes more difficult if a new user is used for every transaction. So this is an example of a Bitcoin transaction graph analysis technique that uses clustering to gather important information about transactions and the users associated with these transactions. The famous Silk Road arrest was also identified using similar analysis technique. Let's talk about wallet fingerprinting. Several techniques are used by wallet softwares to create a unique fingerprint while making transactions. These fingerprints can reveal significant information about the wallet software that is being used, as these techniques can be proved to be distinctly identified. These techniques can prove to distinctly identify the wallet type. Careful analysis of some of these fingerprinting parameters can also lead to some useful inferences about the sender and the receiver or any intermediaries that are involved. For example, in case of coin selection, various wallet softwares use predefined algorithms to decide which available UTXOs to spend. These distinctly identified algorithms can be used to fingerprint the software wallets.
Bitcoin does provide some in-place countermeasures that can tackle the problem of privacy. Some of these features have been incorporated within the blockchain through soft forks, and some of them are still in the soft fork wishlist. Not all of the measures presented in the paper have been incorporated or actively used due to some known problems with the proposals. However, these techniques have proved to be significantly impactful from the privacy perspective when we disregard other factors like performance, large storage capacity on the chain, etc. Even though some of these techniques are implemented, not all entities involved in the transactions incorporate these measures. These entities can be called as the weak links and can allow attackers or surveillance agencies to perform inferences. Collectively, incorporating these countermeasures can tackle many of the known privacy problems with Bitcoin. CoinJoin is one of the techniques that significantly improves the privacy of the transaction by combining inputs from multiple senders into one single transaction. This makes it considerably difficult for any non-involved entity to trace back the transactions and make inferences. It can be effectively used to break the common input-output heuristic problem. Looking at the transaction, one can tell whether a CoinJoin transaction has been performed or not. However, it can't be told which participant owns which output. Essentially, CoinJoin allows us to destroy UTXOs and create new ones. The only link between the old and the newly created UTXOs is the CoinJoin transaction. As promising as CoinJoin looks, it comes with several privacy issues. CoinJoin does expect its participants to carry out the transactions over an anonymous network like Tor, since the transaction can likely result in the leakage of the IP addresses of its participants. CoinJoin suffers from a major problem of denial of service. A participant can refuse to sign the valid join transaction, or they can spend their input before the join transaction is even completed. Now let us look at some of the privacy-preserving techniques employed by cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin. Zcash is a cryptocurrency which utilizes zero-knowledge proofs in building privacy-preserving techniques. For using Zcash, Zcash provides users with two different addresses, Z addresses and T addresses. Z addresses are private addresses, whereas T addresses are the public addresses. Z addresses are also called as the shielded addresses, and T addresses are called as the transparent addresses. Whenever a user wants to keep their activity private, Z addresses would guarantee that. Any activity that the user wants to keep public can be done using the T address. Interoperability between the Z addresses and T addresses assured, and that leads to 4 different types of transactions. The privacy of the transaction, shielded or unshielded, depends on the addresses used by the sending and the receiving party.
So let's talk about stealth addresses. As the transaction data on the blockchain is public, it is easily feasible to determine the recipient wallet address where the transaction outputs are spent. A stealth address is a key pair used by a recipient to prevent disclosing its public wallet address. Based upon the stealth address and some randomness, the sender generates a one-time public key, which would be used as the recipient address in the transaction. The one-time public key can be viewed by every other user in the blockchain, but no one can learn the sender and the recipient that share it. The recipient uses a private view key for scanning the blockchain to find the transactions and for retrieving the output of the transactions into their own wallet. The one-time public key is unique for every transaction. Therefore, even if multiple transactions are made from the sender to the same recipient, it is not possible to prove the existence of such transactions with the use of the stealth address scheme. The recipient's wallet address is never specified in the transaction and is hidden with the help of the one-time public key. One cannot infer the recipient's wallet address from the one-time public key, even though the one-time public key is easily accessible to anyone. This unlinkability between the one-time public key and the recipient's wallet provides privacy to the recipient.
The next privacy-preserving technique is ring signature. A user who wants to generate a ring signature is assigned a set. The set consists of multiple users who all have public and private key pairs. The user generates the ring signature on the message by knowing the public keys belonging to the rest of the members of the set. Coordination among the members of the set is not required, nor is there any need for a centralized authority, unlike CoinJoin. The other members do not need to be aware of their involvement in the signature. None of the members can forge each other's signature, and the ring signature is also irrevocable. The verification of the ring signature can be done with the knowledge of the message, the ring signature, and all the public keys owned by the members of the set. The signer's identity remains hidden behind this set. The goal of using ring signatures in cryptocurrencies is to protect the privacy of a sender of a transaction by making it computationally infeasible to determine the sender's address given the ring signatures. Ring signatures have a requirement that all the members of the ring must have the same outputs. The value of this output is not concealed. Even though ring signatures are successful in hiding the identity of the sender or the signer of a transaction, they fail in hiding the amount transferred in the transaction. This piece of information can be used as a clue to deduct inferences like transaction patterns, and ring confidential transactions are used in place of ring signatures in cryptocurrencies like Monero. After looking at all these cryptocurrencies, we want to provide comparison and analysis of the privacy preserving techniques employed by all the cryptocurrencies. Comparing privacy provided by them is not an easy task. Comparison and analysis of privacy in all these cryptocurrencies can be achieved efficiently by separately analyzing the privacy of various aspects, such as the identity of the users involved in the transaction data, and the entire available blockchain ledger state resulting from the transactions. We have some comparison analysis tables in the paper that analyze privacy at the algorithm level. Users should be made aware about the conditions that need to be met for the transaction to be called private. They must not be under the false assumption of privacy. For instance, CoinJoin can provide privacy only when the anonymity set is large. Generally, only 2 to 4 participants on average are observed to participate in a CoinJoin transaction. As a result, researchers could de-anonymize 67% of CoinJoin transactions. Similarly, in Zcash, users should remember to use their Z addresses or shielded addresses for transactions that they want to keep private. It is also important to understand which technique provides privacy for which aspect. The theoretical guarantee of privacy also often differs from the practical guarantee of privacy.
So let's talk about the legality of privacy preserving cryptocurrencies. Many cryptocurrencies that offer complete anonymity or transaction anonymity have not been widely accepted due to their primary use case being money laundering and other illicit activities. Cryptocurrencies like Monero are not listed on the crypto exchanges due to its hard to track privacy features. Often, less people tend to get involved in the network if the means of converting the cryptocurrency into fiat currencies are prohibited. These cryptocurrencies are constantly monitored by government agencies to track trafficking and other illegal activities. Even though there are ways to exchange these currencies to Bitcoin or other popular cryptocurrencies, they immediately get tainted as intercurrency transactions are managed mostly by crypto exchanges. There's always been a trade-off between acceptability and privacy when it comes to cryptocurrencies. The optimal way out of this would be to adhere to a moderately private tier of the privacy and yet maintain acceptability. Soft forks in Bitcoins have attempted to implement privacy measures, and they have also managed to maintain the legality and wide acceptability of the cryptocurrency in many countries.
So in this paper, we distinctly identified the tiers of privacy and compared prominently known cryptocurrencies based on their privacy offerings. We also studied various privacy preserving measures and algorithms proposed to satisfy the two primary properties of untraceability and unlinkability. Several privacy problems and various inference analysis techniques on Bitcoin were surveyed. As countermeasures, several schemes were incorporated into the Bitcoin network via overlaying implementations or soft forks that tackled many of the privacy problems that were found in Bitcoin. We also studied the privacy preserving techniques offered by other cryptocurrencies and compared several cryptocurrencies based on the algorithms and techniques used to conceal information and prevent analysis attacks. With this, we would like to conclude our presentation. Thank you.